everyone, and welcome back to the Rumcast. This is the podcast that talks all things rum-related with the people who love and shape it. My name is John Gulla, and here with me is Mr. Nashville, otherwise known as Will Hookinga. And Will, we're recording this both during homecoming week here at the University of Miami, and it's almost Halloween. I feel like that fits with this episode we have lined up for today, since we have two previous guests of the podcast coming back on the program. So it's sort of a quasi-homecoming themselves.
A bit of a homecoming.
Focus, yeah.
Maybe a sequel, kind of. I feel like Halloween is a big sequel season with all the movies and everything, you know. But this won't be a bad sequel like a lot of the horror film sequels. This is a good sequel.
Agreed, yes. And do you celebrate much, Will, with Halloween?
I don't. Honestly, I'm an extremely boring Halloween person. I think the last time, there were a couple times in college where, I went to a party, dressed up, that kind of thing. But when I was a kid, I think after the age of 12 or so, I was pretty much done with dressing up. And I'm not really into horror movies. You know, we put some pumpkins out on the front porch, some seasonal mums, that kind of thing.
You're like low effort Halloween.
Yeah, low effort Halloween. I've just never been a Halloween person, I don't really go all out for it. So, but other people are enjoying it. It's great. I walked right through the middle of a trunk or treat last night on the way to
trunk or treat.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with this. So
you don't know what that is?
No, I've never heard of trunk or treat before.
I was just. So I was on my way to the ESL class I do, and I was explaining to a lot of the students what trunk or treat is, because a lot of them are new to the U.S. And they're mostly familiar with trick or treating, but trunk or treat is a new phenomenon, and I definitely didn't think that there would be someone who's lived in the U.S. their entire life and doesn't know what trunk or treat is.
Never heard of this. No.
So I think it's basically, I think it came out a little bit of everyone freaking out about needles and Halloween candy and going to strangers' houses and stuff like that. And so the concept is, some people just do it for fun. It's not out of concern or whatever, but it's people bring their cars to a parking lot or something of that nature, and they have their trunks popped open and decorated and stuff, and they stand outside their trunks and pass out candy that way. So the kids are all dressed up and they go up to the trunks and they get candy and stuff. I think this is correct. Honestly, I've never participated in one. I've just observed it. So maybe I'm getting it totally wrong. But anyway, the school that I was going to last night, they had a trunk or treat in the parking lot. So I saw the little kids in their costumes and I was like, oh yeah, Halloween's cool. But that's about as far as I go with it.
Wow. I don't think I've ever really seen that here, to my knowledge. Of course, I could be wrong, but South Florida maybe is just different. And I used to do the house thing when I was a kid, like you said, same thing, when I was maybe 12 or so, I was done with it. I remember one year I did win a costume contest for being an upside down man.
Upside down man?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So you had the fake head, and it was you wore shoulder pads that would come up. So your fake head was sorry, now I have it backwards. Oh, Jesus. No, it was your fake head was between your legs.
Okay.
And then the shoulder pads covered your actual head, so you just stuck your arms in the air. And
wow.
Those were your legs, and I would walk around like that. And
was this a costume you bought, or did you have to make this?
No, it was made. We made it at home, yeah. And then I won again for being Shredder one year. I think my mom made
Ninja
that
Turtles?
costume. That's so embarrassing to say on a podcast. My mom made this costume that I wore when I was young, and I won a Halloween contest. Yes,
that's not embarrassing. When you're a kid, that's natural. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You got a Shredder.
I'll have to dig up
costume.
A picture of that. It was pretty badass as a Shredder costume.
I was a big, actually, so the last time I ever dressed up for Halloween was in college when my band played at a Halloween party.
Your band, you say, yes?
Yeah, yeah. And we all wanted to dress up and be on theme, and we dressed up as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And
awesome.
Full on face paint, everything. I've got some pictures of it. I'll text them to you. But
okay.
It was.
Let me guess which one you
guess
were.
which one I was.
I feel like you were Donatello, purple.
I was Donatello.
Yes! That's great. I don't know, something about you. You give me a Donatello vibe, so you were on. That's perfect.
I don't know. He struck me as kind of a little more reserved, highly intelligent, and I think I just gravitated toward that. So, I was Donatello.
I feel like, and I'll let you say, but I feel like I'm stuck between Michelangelo and Raphael a little bit.
Michelangelo is the kind of goofball one, right? The orange one
with the nunchucks, yeah.
Yeah, Raphael's kind of the leader.
No, Leonardo leads. Donatello
okay.
does machines. Come on, Will.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Raphael is cool but rude.
Okay.
And Michelangelo is a party dude.
I don't remember all the lore, so thank you for catching me up on it.
All right. Well, bringing it back to rum a little bit. Well, I wanted to ask, have you ever done anything rum related in terms of a costume or anything like that?
No, not at all.
Neither had I, but I've seen other people do it. I think, the Jack Sparrow or Captain Morgan thing's probably overdone, but I feel like I have a good costume.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
It's a broken cork.
A broken cork? But how is that related just to rum? That could be any spirit, right?
Oh, I guess it could be. Well, I'll just put rum on my chest and walk around.
There you go.
I don't know.
That would be kind of cool. You could go as a broken cork, and I could go as a screw cap.
There you go. That is scary. I agree. Oh my god, this is terrible. But I think Halloween's fun. I just haven't been into it, like you said, and I've seen a lot of other people that enjoy a lot of rum activities while they're in costume. So if there are good costumes out there that we should be thinking about rum related, I would love to hear them.
Yeah. Send us your rum related Halloween costume ideas, and we can share some of them. But John, I've mostly been wrapped up in thinking about the argument we had during our mailbag episode that released a couple weeks ago. I think more so than anything we've talked about the podcast, we got the most and the strongest reactions from this disagreement we had than anything else. And the reactions were all over the map. Some people totally agreed with you. Some totally agreed with me. It was really interesting.
Strongly agreed, yeah.
Yes. And what I'm referring to is we had a mailbag question that was essentially give us, an underrated rum producing country. And I chose to answer it from two perspectives. One was an underrated rum country among just the general public, and then an underrated rum country among just rum nerds, because I feel like it's two different answers. And I'll try just to sum up what I said originally, but my answer for the general public was Jamaica, which, sounds surprising, but my point was, I think Jamaican rum should be on the same level as Scotch, cognac, whatever the tip top of the regional spirit types that are out there. Jamaican rum should be known as like the same level of reputation as those things among the general public. And it's so far from that. That was my argument. We went back and forth on it. At some point during the argument, I said, I bet if you asked people to name a Jamaican distillery, less than 10% of people would be able to name Appleton as one. And I chose Appleton because of the distilleries in Jamaica that rum nerds are familiar with, it's like the most likely for someone to have heard of before. Hampton and Worthy Park are great, but I think we can all agree are a little, much further under the public radar than Appleton is. You disagreed strongly and said you thought at least 40% would. So is that an accurate recounting of the argument? I don't want to hedge it too strongly in my favor.
Well, I think what I was saying, yes, you're close, but what I was saying was I think 40% of people recognize Appleton as a Jamaican rum, and I think that's where I'm coming from. Like, it's a known thing to, I said less than half, 40%, but still not like nobody. And so that's where I was at. I know you were at, 10% is what you said.
Less than 10%, yeah.
Less than 10%.
So we got some strong reactions. I want to read a few of them and then share a little bit of independent polling that I did. So first of all, I'll share the Will pro arguments, and then I'll share two John pro arguments. So Chris responded on our Patreon. He said, Will is 100 emoji, 100 emoji, 100 emoji, 3 100 emojis, John. On the Jamaican rum underappreciated question, and I'd never heard of Appleton until I got into Tiki and got Smuggler's Cove, whereas how many people who aren't drinkers or into spirits know what Lagavulin is? Kevin Crossman of Ultimate Mai Tai, he added, John is so wrong about Jamaican rum. That's all he had to say. I just wanted to put that in there. So,
I think even it was just like John's so wrong. I think it's the most economical use of speech there. Nope, just 3 words is all I can give you. John's so wrong.
It said John's so wrong about Jamaican rum. That's right.
Yeah.
So those were a couple of the reactions we got in my favor. In your favor, friend of the podcast, Lance Suraj-Bali of the Lone Caner, messaged us, and he did a little bit of his own independent bowling, and this was after him just completely lambasting me. Is it lambast or lambaste?
Yeah. Lamb-based, I think I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
However you say it. That's what he did to me in his message to us about how wrong I was about Jamaican rum and what a silly answer it was. He said, I asked 15 people around my office completely at random. They all knew Jamaica made good rums, which aside, that's not the argument I was making.
Right,
anyway, continuing with Lance. 8 knew what funkiness was or had heard of the concept. 14 heard of Appleton, and 10 knew of more than Appleton. So that was pretty stunning independent research to me from Lance, who I believe is in Canada at this point. So I almost wanted to ask Lance, like, did you get a job at Appleton satellite office in Canada that you had that level of response?
That one person working from them that still never heard of it?
Yeah. So, okay, that one, completely flies in the face of what I was saying. We also had Gretchen, who responded on Facebook and said, do people know Appleton? I have bartended since 2005, and yes, y'all, everyone used to only know Appleton because it was one of the only brands of rum besides Bacardi that people knew. Have y'all ever bartended? So my guess is more like 80% of people only know Bacardi, Appleton, and maybe Don Q. And to answer your question, Gretchen, no, I've never bartended. I don't believe John has ever bartended either. So, yeah.
I have not. Yeah,
it was great to get that perspective. And it made me curious to get more bar perspectives. And so this is where my independent research came in. And I turned to the bartenders subreddit community. And I actually, in the process of doing this, I didn't look at these subreddit rules close enough. And I actually, I'm ashamed to admit it, and I felt bad afterwards. I broke one of the rules of the subreddit, which is that it is a space just for bartenders. It's not a place for non-bartender idiots like me to come in and be like, hey, I'm not a bartender, but what do you guys think about this question? So anyway, I posed my question and I got a lot of responses, but eventually, I think once the community moderators saw it, they shut it down and actually gave me a 30-day ban from the community. So I sacrificed a lot to get this. And if any, community members of the bartender subreddit are listening, I do apologize. I did feel bad about breaking the community rules. It was unintentional. I tried to come with respect, but I do respect those.
Rule breaker, the rebel over here.
I know, I felt bad about it. So anyway, I posted a poll in there, and I'll read to you the language that I prompted the poll with. So I said, okay, a buddy and I were recently having a friendly argument about rum, and we're hoping y'all could weigh in. We're both spirits enthusiasts, but have never worked in the bar field. If you asked customers to name some Jamaican rums, what percentage would be able to list Appleton off the top of their head? Your expertise is appreciated. And I gave 6 options to answer with: 10% or fewer, 10 to 30%, 30 to 40%, 40 to 50%, 50 to 75%, or over 75%. Before my post was shut down, it got 104 votes, and 60 out of 104 selected 10% or fewer. 23 out of 104 selected 10 to 30%. And then between the rest, let's see, there were 9, 15, 21 out of 104 selected something over 30%. So really lopsided in favor of 10% or fewer. Also just a few comments. A few people responded and had some interesting perspectives to share. So we had one user said, nobody in the US knows rums despite how amazing a spirit it is. My guess is you would have trouble getting past Captain 100%, Bacardi 90%, Kraken 60%, Gosling's 50%, Mount Gay 30%, anything else less than 10%. And there were, some people chimed in. A few people said, it's going to vary wildly depending on type of bar and geographic location, which is
that's true.
Is very true, and I acknowledge. But so I felt a little bit validated in my perspective by that. Now, of course, I also recognize depending on where you are in the world, you might get different results. But speaking from my experience in the US, that's what the point I was trying to make, is that there's just a general lack of understanding that not only does great rum come from Jamaica, but that great rum can be appreciated on the level of other spirits, prestige spirits like Scotch, cognac, etc. It can be sipped neat, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, what do you have any reaction to this groundbreaking research that I've just unveiled?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's very flawed.
You're trying to say it's not statistically significant?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I trust it 100%. 40% trust it. So the point there that I think you hit on, which I just want to make a quick comment on, is regional and or city versus another area, like large city. I've lived my life basically here in South Florida, especially in the Miami area, but in South Florida, we do have a huge Jamaican population.
Sure.
And just general Caribbean type of kind of vibes and atmosphere.
Sure.
And I agree with that person who said, it's Appleton, Bacardi, and everything else.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel, but that's based on where I live and where I've grown up and, was raised here in this area. I've also lived in New York for a little while, and I lived outside of Washington, D.C. for a little while. And I don't feel like it was very different with regards to that perspective in those places. However, the rest of the United States, it may well be different. So I'm willing to cede that, in Idaho, I don't know, I don't want to pick on Idaho, but, like somewhere.
It's a safe bet, probably. Choose the landlocked state of your choice.
The one person that's listening right now from Idaho goes, hey!
We've got more than one person in Idaho, John. Just don't sell us short, okay? We're huge in Idaho. We do numbers in Idaho.
I feel like they're probably less so for Appleton. But in the East Coast, number one, and number two is in the big cities, I feel like it would be closer. But then again, I'm not a bartender, and you had a bunch of bartenders say otherwise. So
or people pretending to be bartenders, maybe. Who knows?
Well, they're going to get booted from the subreddit in that case.
Well, no, you're allowed to be there. You just, the posting of topics is for bartenders. Yeah. Gotcha. I will acknowledge I broke the rules unknowingly, but I still did it. Right. And I'll accept my 30-day ban graciously.
The fact that you broke the rules to do this invalidates all of that research anyways. So we'll have to have somebody else report in.
This is like college athletics.
Inadmissible in court.
Yeah, okay.
It is inadmissible.
Inadmissible.
All right, we should get on to our wonderful interview here.
We should. Yeah, we've got a great interview. This is a topic we've wanted to dive a little bit deeper into for a while now. And that topic is going a little bit before rum. So what we use to make rum. I say we, John and I don't make rum. I'm saying the rum-making community. We wanted to talk about... No. Yes, we wanted to talk about molasses production, the differences in types of molasses, how molasses is even made within the sugar production process. And so we were fortunate enough to have two people who are very knowledgeable about this. We had Maggie Campbell, who is the estate manager at Mount Gay, and Zan Kong, who is the commercial manager for spirits at Worthy Park in Jamaica. Speaking of Jamaican rum, a wonderful Jamaican distillery. And both of them have interesting perspectives on this because both of these distilleries are not typical at all in how they source at least some of their molasses. In Worthy Park's case, it's all of their molasses. In Mount Gay's case, it's for now a small portion of their molasses. But just to start with Worthy Park, before kind of the modern return of rum to Worthy Park, which is in the early 2000s, Worthy Park was manufacturing sugar for a long time, and they still do that. You can buy Worthy Park sugar. So they have access to their own molasses. They can get directly from their own mill, which creates the molasses from sugarcane that is grown in their fields. Most modern distilleries now do not have something like that. There are some others, but it's definitely not the average setup. Mount Gay, on the other hand, this is something we've talked about in several of our other episodes, kind of an ongoing storyline in rum. They built their own sugar mill recently and did that, because they've started growing cane around the property years ago. The planning for the mill goes back quite a while. I think maybe 2016, 2015, something like that. And has been a big part of Trudeanne Branker's vision, who's currently the master blender there. And this is kind of in the news recently because just this past week, Mount Gay announced the first release in their single estate rum collection. And that's basically where this sugar mill fits in. They're going to have a line of products that are made with molasses that comes from their sugar mill. That was, the molasses was made from sugarcane grown right in their fields. I do believe this initial release, the molasses for this, this was before their mill was ready. So they sourced that molasses from a local Barbados sugar mill that I think stopped everything and did molasses the way Mount Gay wanted it to be made there. So that release is in the news. People were really excited about it. And anyway, my whole point in mentioning that is since Maggie has been there over the past, I guess maybe it's been close to 2 years, maybe 2 years now.
Yeah, feels like.
She's been very involved in the estate program and has done a lot of stuff relating to the sugar mill, has become very knowledgeable on the sugar making process. Obviously, Zan has had a lot of exposure to that as well at Worthy Park. So it's just a deep dive into molasses, the different types of molasses. I've never used the plural of that can be used in rum production. And we also get into kind of concerns about molasses' future. That's been an ongoing topic of discussion with lots of producers we have on the show, is just the quality of molasses has gotten lower for lots of reasons. When sugar mills are produced, they exist to make sugar, not molasses. And so the goal for many of them is to extract as much sugar as possible from the molasses, which,
in turn leaves you with less sugar content in the molasses itself.
Yes, which changes fermentation and all sorts of stuff. So just a deep, nerdy dive with two extremely fun people to talk about rum with. We also touched on the new release I mentioned from Mount Gay. We talk about that at the beginning, and we also talk about some new stuff that Worthy Park recently debuted at the UK Rum Fest, a new overproof rum from Worthy Park. So excited to get into all that. But anything to add before we take things over to the interview?
No, the only thing I would say was what was different than what we usually do, which I appreciated, is it was less of an interview format this time and just more of kind of a discussion on the topic, which was kind of a fun way to do this. We're used to talking to many times somebody new that we haven't talked to before, and we're asking them questions to get a lot of this information. Whereas here it felt like I mentioned at the outset, the homecoming, it kind of felt like a nice gathering of people. We already knew each other and just talking about, like you said, a deep dive into this concept that is fascinating, and which I think more people who love rum should really know a little bit more about. Yeah. So, I think it helps us to frame a part of the conversation about rum we just don't get to talking to very much.
For sure. Yeah, I'm super excited for people to hear it. So we'll take a quick break to hear from the sponsor of this episode, and then we'll get right to it.
Hey, Rumcasters. One thing Will and I have long begged for is smaller-sized rum bottles. Sometimes we want to be able to try a new rum without having to spend more than $100 on a full 750 milliliter. But that's just one of the reasons we're excited about a new independent bottler out of Boston called Raising Glasses. They've just released their latest line of rums in 375 milliliter bottles that typically retail for less than $50. The Folklore line of rums from Raising Glasses currently has 7 different single cask releases, all over 57.5% ABV, and all featuring original artwork of a mythological creature from its country of origin. What origins might those be? How about Burning Cane, which is a cask-strength 15-year-old Foursquare, Moongazer, a 9-year-old 100% Versailles wooden pot still from Guyana, or Guardians, an 8-year-old Trinidad that I called one of our top rums of 2022. They even have brand new releases, including a 14-year from Venezuela, a pair of 9-year-olds from Thailand, and the terrifying Yowie, a 68.3% 16-year Australian beast. These are all available for online ordering in 41 states in the US, and you can also find them in retail stores in both Massachusetts and New York. So be sure to get them at raisingglasses.com before the Yowie gets you. Now back to the show.
All right, we're here with Maggie Campbell and Zan Kong, both making, we were just talking about this, repeat appearances. Not only repeat, this is Maggie's 3rd time and Zan's 2nd time, which means that y'all have been on about 5% of Rumcast episodes at this point, because we're almost at 100. Wow. We're like, I think this is what, John, 94, 95?
Yeah.
So almost 5% of Rumcast episodes. And I think there's a reason for that. People just love to hear from you guys. So thank you for being back once again. As I was just telling you, Zan, the belt, the guest belt for the Rumcast is in the mail. So just keep an eye out for that.
What would that even look like? I'm sorry. What would that belt even look like? I have to put it into my head.
Wrestler, heavyweight champion.
It has to,
exactly.
It has to be, yeah. Like WWF, not even WWF, like old school original.
Old school.
There's a lot of gold involved. I feel like maybe we should do some diamonds. I was just watching, like the NBA started last night. It was ring night for the Nuggets, and I was watching the ring presentation, and they have all these like compartments that pull out of it and diamonds and stuff. So I think we should go all out and do something along those lines.
So it's got bling. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I go off on a tangent already?
Yeah, you can.
Why not? This is the tangent cast.
You've been here before.
All right. So wrestling, right? You remember the Bushwhackers?
Yes.
I don't remember the Bushwhackers.
How old are you?
35.
And you don't remember the Bushwhackers?
I never had a wrestling phase growing up. You know, a lot of my friends were into
he's too cultured for that.
Okay. Maggie trivia. I have a scar, 6 stitches in my chin for after church watching wrestling. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my God. A little after church wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, we were watching WWF, old school.
What was
I didn't want to miss anything, and I was like running to get water in those like white tights with the pink hearts from like the 80s. I slipped and I split open my chin, and the ER is like, "Oh, we see these wrestling accidents all the time."
I thought it was going to be like you saw a move watching wrestling, and you and a sibling or something practiced it on each other.
I did that. I powerbombed my brother once and got in super trouble for that. Yes.
But you guys remember, I only found out like yesterday, and it was on one of those Remember the 90s Instagram accounts. I didn't realize the Bushwhackers had accents. Like, I thought they were like American, Southern American, but they're like, and I'm just going to be ignorant here. It was like somewhere it was like either Irish or English accents. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I did not know that. This is news to me. I don't remember this. I'm going to have to look it up.
It was like that. What's that thing where, we all remember the Mandela effect?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Like I watched it and I was like, no, there's no way that these guys are like British.
Well,
maybe I can.
They're Kiwis. They're from New Zealand. I just looked it up, and I didn't know this.
Oh,
yes.
This is why you couldn't place the accent.
Their alternate names, other than the Bushwhackers, was the Kiwis and the New Zealand sheep herders.
Get out!
Yes.
Oh my gosh! So Meredith, as you guys may know, one of Rumming Head Start, one of the biggest rum collectors in the U.S.
Yeah,
she loves a Kiwi accent. So Zan, we have a mission. We need to learn some of these phrases and catchphrases.
No, because it's not like they're having a conversation, right? So they're just like and licking Eugene's face, and I'm like, what? I'm like, where is this accent from? Baffled. Childhood is just.
Maybe I can rustle up a clip of the Bushwhackers talking, and we can throw that in the episode right there or something.
Hell yeah.
So the people can get a feel, and I can get a feel for it too.
So that took 35 seconds for us to go off topic.
Well, Bushwhackers to me.
You're welcome.
One of the most popular kind of college bar kind of drinks in Nashville is called the Bushwhacker, which it's like a boozy milkshake. Essentially, it's an absolutely guaranteed hangover. I do not recommend it if you're over the age of 22. So anyway, bringing it back to booze, we want to talk about sugarcane and molasses and sugar production and all that stuff on this podcast. That's why we brought y'all on. But before that, there's been so much in the news about both of you. I feel like we should congratulate both of you. Zan Worthy Park just took home the IWSC Rum Producer of the Year award.
Woo-hoo!
And
we'll throw in the applause sound effect.
Yeah. And Maggie Mount Gay has been in the news all week because the inaugural release of the single estate program was announced. So I think that's something that people were aware was happening there, but people hadn't really gotten to see what it was going to all look like when it came together. So I'm sure that's been really cool. What's it been like to finally see a little bit of that project? Because I know that this release was distilled and conceived before you were there, but I think your work is involved in the estate program. So what's it kind of like to see that out there and people reacting to it and everything?
Yeah, so this has been, 8+ years. I think Miguel, who some people here will know.
Yes, Miguel.
Good friend of Zan's. He said, what's it like to keep a secret for 10 years? Let me tell you. This has been in the works for a really long time. It's Trudy Ann's, addition to the standard Mount Gay line.
Mm-hmm.
Famous, previous master distillers have created their products like Eclipse back in the 20s. And then, XO being created previously, Black Barrel by Alan Smith. And then this is Trudy Ann's sort of vision and concept that she's really brought to life. You're correct. It's been going on since a long time, since before I arrived. I'm fortunate that in my capacity at Mount Gay, I get to play a small role in this one where I do help with the agricultural team, getting to, work with them, and then also with the sugar mill, which we're going to talk about a lot here. So as my role is sugar mill manager, which is a small, tiny part of my role as well. I get to be a part of this in a little way also, but it's definitely Trudy Ann's vision, her and the whole team. It takes an entire distillery to bring a product to life and beyond. Everyone in the team is involved. It has all their fingerprints on it, as Trudy Ann likes to say. So this is really her baby, and it's been really exciting to see it because, Zan and I are both so passionate about sugar making, sugar estates, what a different undertaking that is than if we were to use, exclusively fresh pressed juice, or if we were to bring molasses in. Building our sugar mill was harder than building a distillery from the ground up. It was, when you go to Worthy Park, you go to the distillery and it's this whole expansive building, and then you go to the sugar mill and it's a whole other one. The same is true now at Mount Gay, where it's as technical, it's as difficult, it takes years and investment, and it's not a gimmick. It's pretty
right.
It's pretty serious long-term work. So I'm really excited to see the team roll the single estate out and see people embrace it like so much. It's been exciting. We've been watching the feedback and hearing places sell out, and it's been very exciting today and yesterday.
That's amazing.
I'm assuming that you have tasted this release.
I have. I was fortunate that, I've gotten to try it as it's gone through a bit of life. I'm very lucky that Trudy Ann is very, open to getting everyone's feedback and people trying. So I've gotten to try it for a few times.
I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but for people who have, who are Mount Gay fans and, love XO and the limited releases over the years, the pot still rum release and stuff like that, how would you say this compares to that? Or like if you had to, contrast them, what would you say people can expect from this release?
Yeah. Well, it's Trudy's baby, so I always respect and don't want to speak for her, but for me and my impression, it's always going to have the Mount Gay house style. We have our style. It's going to be dry, aged in oak. It's not going to have the flavoring or sweetener additives. It's always going to have that
Barbados
classic
rum is what you're saying. It's Barbados rum. Got it. Okay.
It's going to have those classic Mount Gay character and notes. Part of terroir is where you distill and where you age. Terroir of the cellar is going to show through, but it has a vibrancy and a liveliness and a clarity and a brilliance that I think is really, really special.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I know people are really excited about that, and it was cool. I think I saw the little label approval come through a few months ago, and then seeing the bottle and everything was really exciting.
Yeah. Something that was really cool was that when that label approval went through, people were really chill about it, and we got to announce our spirit ourselves instead of other people kind of pre-announcing it when they saw that.
Scooped.
So
How did you manage that? I don't understand. I didn't even think that was possible anymore.
I just was I saw that it didn't, it's, we just lived our lives and kept working. That's what we did. But it was very exciting that we got to announce it ourselves. And the website for the product actually has a ton of information. It really highlights Trudy's process, the estate, the varietals, the distillers, tons of geeky information there. So if you want to know like what it tastes like, the tasting notes, the style, definitely refer to the website.
Okay, nice. Yeah, actually, I haven't even looked at that yet. I need to check it out.
It's super geeky and awesome.
Yeah, I love when brands do that. Invest in websites, brands. Richard Seal, if you're listening, get a website.
Before we move on to, I know we want to talk a lot about the sugar process and all of that, but Zan also had a product come out recently, or at least I saw a picture of it, which was the Worthy Park Overproof.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Also, I know we wanted to hear more.
I mean, I don't think I can follow up so eloquently as Miss Campbell, but no, I just give you a little of the background. We obviously started with Rum Bar as our first brand that we came out with, in Jamaica as our first brand that we launched, kind of put us on the map again. And then, we started transitioning to more of the Worthy Park releases. And just that as that demand grew for, people wanted Worthy Park products, wanted Worthy Park official distillery products, we kind of shifted towards more products coming out under that line. And here at home, about 2 years ago now, we launched Worthy Park Select, which complemented our Rum Bar Gold, but different blend, a little bit older, a little bit different price point, just a little to try to capture a little different aspect of the market. And the success, I mean, it was really successful for us here. So we followed that with a Worthy Park rum cream. So now we have, Rum Bar rum cream and Worthy Park rum cream. And originally when we started with those two projects, we actually never thought we were going to do a Worthy Park wet overproof. Actually, I take that back. We didn't think we were going to do one so soon. But both of those products, we started getting a lot of just very positive feedback, very tremendous feedback. Coincidentally, a couple years ago, we started working with fresh pressed cane juice in fermentation. So it was just kind of a natural evolution of the way things are going here at the distillery. We said, all right, well, if we're going to launch a Worthy Park wide overproof to kind of go after a different section of the market, how can we make it different, right? Then Rum Bar, which is our top product, right? Which is a little counterintuitive, I think, for most people, but we do things a little differently here. So we said, all right, we have cane juice. We're very confident with the different marks of rum that our distillery can produce. We're also very confident with our blending team. Obviously, Craig, who you guys know, and blending team, that we could come up with a product that is standalone different than Rum Bar White Overproof. And that's kind of what led to it. So now we have Worthy Park White Overproof. We're about to, launch it here in Jamaica. It's going to get to the States in 2024. And nice. I know you. It's
right around the corner.
I know you U.S. guys like to play the victim all the time and say you never get the rum first, but
we do.
I can almost, without confirming it, that the States is going to get the Worthy Park White Overproof pretty quickly.
All right.
So
you can neither confirm nor deny that it will be in the U.S. first. Maybe.
Yeah. It will be one of our first. But no, it's a fantastic product. I got to take it out to UK Rum Fest, which is obviously a great launching grounds for any brand or any rum that you want. Honest.
See, you just talked about the U.S. is finally going to get something first, and you're like, I had to go introduce it, in the UK, give them the big introduction first. Yeah.
Well, it's like having multiple kids, man. You can't. You got to give a little here, give a little candy over here, a little ice cream there. You got to spread the wealth, spread it. But no, and the feedback was tremendous. I mean, I saw a lot of very positive and very humbling in a good way feedback, and we're super proud of it and very excited to get it out there.
Yeah, John texted me a photo, I think, that he pulled off social media from UK Rum Fest of the bottle last week maybe, and I was like, another Worthy Park Overproof. First of all, this is awesome. Second of all, they have Rum Bar Overproof, so this one has to be different in some way. And we were like, do you think there's cane juice in there? And so I'm like really thrilled to hear that's the case. Is it a blend that features cane juice? Okay.
It's a blend of different marks. So again, it's a complete different blend than Rum Bar with Overproof. It's not like we just did the same blend and substituted cane juice with it. And it's actually a blend of our molasses and cane juice marks.
Love it. Yeah. Love it.
So,
love the bottle too, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, on the note of cane and molasses and all that good stuff, let's talk about that. I think, John and I have been talking for a while about wanting to do an episode at some point that just dives a little deeper into sugar production, molasses production, sugarcane, all that stuff, just because in so many of our conversations, they tend to touch on, especially when talking with molasses rum producers, of just ongoing challenges in sourcing molasses, how molasses is changing over the years, all the stuff they're having to do to adjust to those changes. We've also talked a lot about kind of more of a trend of producers investing in cane production that we're seeing, around the Caribbean right now, from St. Lucia distillers to Foursquare to Mount Gay. I'm sure there are others that I'm forgetting right now, but producers wanting to do more than just use a little molasses. They're using juice in different ways. They're doing all sorts of different stuff. And it's just kind of an interesting time right now. And you both have kind of front row seats to two producers that are doing things very differently from most, in that Zan, Worthy Park, before they kind of relaunched, they brought rum back to Worthy Park. They were in the sugar business, producing sugar. Maggie, as we were just talking about, Mount Gay, invests in, building a sugar mill from scratch so they can have some of their own locally produced molasses, estate grown cane and everything. So if we, I think a good place to start is to just zoom out a little bit and talk about what molasses actually is, which sounds like a super basic question, but I think most listeners know that it's, it's left over after you make crystallized sugar. They know what it looks like. Maybe they've used it in baking, that sort of stuff. But what all actually goes into making it, and how does it fit into the larger process of sugar production?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, we've kind of gone to extremes, right? There's a big difference between growing some cane, fresh pressing it, which we have to do already, but then we take all these added extra steps, right, to make the molasses. And it's a huge undertaking. It's a completely different animal, and big vision to Gordon and Worthy Park for investing and believing in Caribbean sugar. We invest in and believe in Caribbean sugar. It's the intense way to go. We went all the way. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people use, when you talk about cane juice and molasses interchangeably, I think people don't realize that there's so much that happens in between that, right?
Right.
We haven't even delved into the whole growing of cane and how that all harvesting.
18 months in the field.
Yeah.
6 months or 2 months of running a sugar mill before you've ever fermented a drop.
Yeah. But even from that point where it's all right, we have cane juice that we can use, to the point where that cane juice is further going through the different steps, it's a ton of work that goes into it. And the commodity of sugar being seen as a commodity is almost so disrespectful to sugar, because there's so much that goes into it that, when you come to Worthy Park, and now when you go to Mount Gay and you see the sugar, it's mind blowing how much more goes in. And again, this is relatively speaking, but how much more goes into sugar production and molasses production than people even think about or can even fathom. It still blows my mind after 8 years of working here, of seeing what goes into it.
And even just the quality of the cane coming in from the field, how well have they maintained that field? I know when we went to Worthy Park and I brought my staff, we were blown away at how beautifully kept their fields were. I know that we keep really lovely fields, some of our neighbors being you guys really baby these canes. But, when you harvest it and then you're not bringing in other weeds, other junk, other material, it's just these beautiful canes, you're already starting with a base that's going to be night and day from something else. Yeah. So once you press that juice, so Zan, do you mind if I go through a little bit of sugar making process?
Hell yeah, do it.
As someone who works in a mill,
yes.
But I originally learned a lot of what I know from Zan and some of his presentations that he does, where he really opens the curtain behind how a sugar mill works. But essentially, we're taking the cane, we're pressing it to release the juice. And there's a million variables there. How many rollers you have, how many mills you have, how hard you're pressing, what type of material is coming in, what time in the season is it, did it rain recently? I can't even tell you. So many things already happening there. That juice is then settled, so any wax or little bits gets clarified from the clear juice, is separated from sort of the stuff that falls to the bottom. That stuff that falls to the bottom is incredibly nutrient rich. I don't know about you guys, but we return it to our fields. It's amazing. It's like we don't even sell or part with it. Yeah.
No, we separate it, and you have the clear juice, and then we call it like the muddy water.
We call it mud too, but it's not mud.
It's not mud, but yeah. So we have a rotary vacuum filter, and it's like the final like extraction, and then all that goes back out as fertigation in the fields.
Exactly. Same here. And then when you crush the cane, you end up with the leftover fibers from the cane, the bagasse.
Right.
That is really high value. Like, we can't make enough bagasse. People use it for chicken bedding, composting. We don't sell it as of yet, but we want to. And our local mill, Port Vale, so the big sugar mill on Barbados, they sell it, and they're like, oh, we can't make enough. Like, people would take more.
I didn't realize that. I always just, usually when you talk to rum producers who are, crushing cane or something, you hear of them using it for fuel a lot of times.
You just throw it into the fire.
Yeah, because if you grow it, if you grow it and then you burn it, it's, essentially carbon neutral. I think that's how they calculate it out as. We don't burn it because we only have such a small amount of sugar cane, which is a big difference between us and Worthy Park. We have a very, very small estate. We make very little rum from it. So we wouldn't be able to like power a boiler with what we have. So you get the fresh juice that you've separated into the clear juice. You take that clear juice and you put it into an evaporator. This evaporator is going to use steam to heat it. And essentially it's like simmering in a pot. And you're basically boiling it down into a richer syrup. For us, when we use that 1 ton of steam and we're driving the water out to concentrate down the syrup, sugarcane juice is mostly water. So for the 1 ton of steam that we use to power it, we reclaim 4 tons of fresh water out of the sugarcane. And I'm sure Zan and Worthy Park is a very, very super sustainable mill. I'm sure you guys do that as well. So that blew me away about Worthy Park and was a big inspiration for us, is like how sustainable it is. There's no waste in that mill. So we get the fresh water back. We've boiled it down into this rich syrup, and then that rich syrup goes to the pans. Now, the pan is a incredible, artisanal, skilled, artful process, as challenging as distilling. Like any master distiller and a pan boiler, I see them as equals. Like,
wow.
They're incredible. So what you're doing is essentially you're boiling down this syrup into crystals. There's 3 ways crystals can be made. The first way, like if you leave your honey out, it crystallizes, right? So you just time. The second way is to boil something down and it'll start to crystallize. The third way is to introduce a seed, like a little tiny piece of sugar dust that becomes a nucleus. We call it seed slurry. That sugar then the sugar crystal grows. So what we do is you basically take sugar you've made and you grind it down to like a very fine powdered sugar. I'm simplifying this big time. And then you mix it with rum or alcohol and you pour it into this boiler that's boiling the syrup down, and it creates a little nucleus on which the sugar crystal can grow.
Wow.
So as that sugar starts to grow, you're kind of going through these different processes. So there's like a lot of technical terms to it, but essentially you want to boil that syrup to like super saturation, which is this intermediate zone, which essentially when you're touching the boiling down syrup, if you can pull your fingers apart 1 inch, there will be a little sling, like a little dip in the liquid. And if it can get a 1-inch sling, you're pretty much at that zone. And that's, really where you want to kind of do this practice. And once you get the perfect eye to say, this is ready, you add your sugar slurry. And then you really want to start to grow these crystals. So you want to start creating more and more and more sugar crystals. But then once you hit the level of crystals you want to grow those crystals. So you basically start giving the pan drinks. So little splashes of water are injected into the pan. And this creates this saturation, which transitions it to this metastable zone. And that's where you're no longer growing new crystals, but you're growing the crystals you already have. Wow. And as the sugar boiler is doing all of this touch, feel, visual
Is this
mastery,
one person doing all of this?
Yeah, essentially standing there, and they have like a sample port they pull out of this sort of boiling pans, we call it, out of the traditional, they used to be what would it be? Horizontal pans. Now, obviously, they're stacked vertical. So it almost looks like a column still. They're pulling a little sample out of it, and they're touching it and feeling it to really see like how the crystals are forming, what the character is, what does it look like. They're adding these drinks, which are these splashes of water, which can help them sort of rebuild crystals the way they want. All of this really natural touch is going in. And it's amazing to me when there's like a master pan boiler there and they start boiling sugar crystals, they really react to what they're seeing. And one of the best stories I heard was that back when our sugarcane was sent to Port Vale, so as you may know from our single state release, before we had our own mill, we would have the local sugar mill, Port Vale, stop, clean everything, and then make our sugarcane into molasses. One of their pan boilers was like running around showing people the little plate of glass that they smear the crystals on to look at it. And he was like, this is what crystals looked like 30 years ago. Like he was so excited.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
Awesome.
And that, like, for me, that was like, yeah, that was like the good feeling when I heard that story. So yeah, so that the crystals really tell you a lot about what is going on. And so essentially you have this boiling liquid and you have these crystals, and that's called massicrete.
Okay.
And that massicrete, and sometimes you'll hear the word mother liquid. That's like younger massicrete, like fresher massicrete in this boiling process. So mother liquid or massicrete, that goes to a centrifuge, and the centrifuge is spun and it throws the molasses off, which then goes to collection, and then you have your crystals. So that is a very brief, rushed story of sugar making.
That's awesome.
For me, there's a lot of, and I'm sure we'll get into this, talk about like character and stuff. But if you think about the crystals, like processed sugar crystals being relatively flavorless, and you're removing those, think of what you're leaving behind. This concentrated, rich bouillon of flavor. And that's
bouillon's
the molasses.
a good word. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love hearing you talk, Maggie.
Yeah, it is. It is awesome and fun. I wanted to quickly follow up with what you were saying there in the process of saying, is there an objective standard for that, or is it really a subjective art in terms of what you're looking for from the final product?
So I think that there's a few things. I mean, it's always going to be what was this year's harvest like, what came into the factory, what's coming in, and what they're reading on the plates is inherently going to change their styles. There's no one way to do it. Mm-hmm. But depending on what your goal is as a sugar producer, that is really going to change what it is you're doing. So we do grade A crystals and we do grade A molasses. So our crystals will be very soft. We'll pull very few crystals out. We leave more sugar behind in the molasses. Whereas if you were trying to, pull out more sugar or grow different types of crystals, like a B or a C crystal, and I know Zan can speak more about this, your crystals will be a little bit firmer, a little bit more like, they look really pretty. They look really good. And they'll be a little bit firmer and a little bit harder. And then the molasses would probably have less sugar in it. And then, of course, because both Zan and I at our mills have control, we can really go slow and careful. There's no singeing, there's no burning, there's no rush, there's no pressure. The thought about the molasses is front of mind. It's not something that goes somewhere else for us.
I can't remember where I read this, but I feel like I remember reading maybe a year ago or so about you were talking about the master pan boilers, studying the crystals, knowing when they're just right and everything. I think I recall reading that there are mills in the US where like they literally, they don't know how to do that. And so they like bring in seasonal workers who are experts at that. And that's what they do. Like they're there to know when the crystals are just right and everything. And it's kind of like this skill that like, 99% of people just don't possess. And it's a rare
skill. And, with Barbados sugar factories closing, it's become very rare here. And so for us, when we were training our really young, really energetic team, a lot of the guys who were coming in to work with us were in their 70s, in their 80s, and really excited to see that this was going to be passed down because these are skills that could be lost in one generation.
Right. Yeah.
And, and it's like, I know with Zan, like their mill is really important because Jamaica's had a lot of mills closed too. And so for us, it's keeping this intergenerational skill and know-how here and continuing it and passing it down. And I know sugar has a long history. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we don't want to glamorize the past. And also, like, the pride that people today feel, in Barbados, an independent republic where, Barbados owns its own sugar industry. Like, they say sugar gets in your blood. And there's so much pride on like putting food on people's tables and contributing to rum, which, is one of the biggest exports. So it's this big point of pride that's really important to people, and I think that in honoring and respecting like the past and not trying to change the narrative around that, I also want to say that like people today, like they're really proud of like what they do and that connection and seeing something at the end of the day in their hand that they're really proud of. Yeah. Zan, is there anything you want to correct for your perspective on how you guys make sugar? And because I know you make different grades, like you guys have a ton of diversity of styles, which is really cool.
Well, and I think one of the things to remember too is, for people listening, Mount Gay's objective in making a mill is completely different than Worthy Park's objective in sugar production. So even though we're process pretty much the same, at the end of the day, we're extracting sugar from cane. Because as everyone tell you, sugar's grown in cane, right? It's not grown in the factory, but we have very different objectives where we are still first and foremost a sugar producer. So the steps, even though are similar to what Maggie said, and I think a couple points. We do use our bagasse for we burn it, so we create electricity, right? So we use it to create steam and create electricity, and then that steam also flows through and heats up the evaporators and the other equipment as well. There really is a lot of steps of, like Maggie said, sustainability that happen and energy renewal, because it's just it's just the right production thing to do. And everything, like Maggie said, was the same as how we do it. I don't want to say correct because it's obviously right, but just how we do it after we have the A massacrete, because we are, there's our A sugar is what we sell, and we sell it as commercial grade sugar. Our A molasses, so the big difference is we don't use that for fermentation of rum. There's still enough residual sugar in that molasses that we send it back to a different vacuum pan. Right? So we had that first vacuum pan that in the end you have that A massacrete as Maggie described. And then then we send that A molasses to a separate vacuum pan. And that same thing happens where we're extracting and growing those sugar crystals that are still there. And at the end of that cycle, now we have B massacrete. So now we send that B massacrete to a centrifuge. Same thing, same process again. And now B sugar for us is still commercial grade sugar. So it's still, you measure polarization of your thing, 96?
Yeah, all the polarity,
Yeah. So ours has
I love all the sugar shop talk going back and forth,
Well, truthfully, there's very few people that I can talk to in the rum industry, because there's very few people that are doing this. So I love talking with Maggie, and she always teaches me so much about my own stuff when I talk to her, which is great.
You guys teach us so much, and like big shout out for like when Worthy Park hosted 6 Mount Gay employees as we were building our sugar mill. You guys were so sweet and open door. Like our lab techs spent 2 days with your lab techs. Our maintenance guys spent days with your maintenance guys. Like it was amazing. You guys helped us out a lot, and like we love to talk shop. So.
I feel like if we were in person, we would need a high five right now.
We'd be like, and a box of tissues. We'd be like, ugly crying and all that fun stuff. But yeah, so now we have B sugar, B molasses, and we do it one more time. And we have another vacuum pan, and after that you have C massacrete, and now that C molasses or final molasses or blackstrap as some would call it, that is what we then either send to our distillery for fermentation, or we sell it to the Caribbean molasses, or whether it's feed companies and bakeries and stuff that will buy it. So C molasses, and then to what Maggie said, that C sugar now is what we'll melt down. So we'll melt it down and put it back into a vacuum pan. So because it's too small for us to sell, and we need to reuse it to kind of keep the next cycle of sugar going. Yeah, so that in a nutshell is a little bit of the differences of what we do with the sugar in our factory.
Yeah.
And I love that
molasses.
you said the sugar is in the cane, because you're right. And like
Yeah.
this idea that like it frustrates me when people talk about molasses as though it's not sugar. And I'm like, molasses is only sugarcane juice. Like it's only made of sugarcane, guys. Like it's not made of anything else. And they're like, well, the sugar's been removed. I'm like, how are we using our language here? You know, like molasses is just sugar.
Yeah,
like
people
sugarcane.
talk about it like it's like toxic industrial sludge sometimes.
Which is so strange, because it's, you know, it's really only this modern iteration that this has really existed. And you see old brands market as, you know, we have the Barbados Jamaica rivalry. I'm going to give a shout out to Barbados molasses being like a marketing term for excellent molasses. You see it used on molasses from all over the world, not from Barbados. It says Barbados molasses because there is no GI.
It's kind of like Demerara sugar. You see the same thing.
Right. And so Demerara can be a sugarcane varietal. It can be a style of sugar, right? So this Barbados molasses, and there's, you know, old historical documents saying they grew sugarcane to make molasses for its quality. Wow. And this idea of like the modern central factory, we want the crystals, we don't want the molasses. I think people don't understand that's like a more modern thing.
Right.
Yeah. The whole like I think too, when you say byproduct, it just gives it kind of diminishes the value of whatever that product is.
Yeah, it's not a sexy term. Yeah.
Oh, it's just a byproduct. So we just, you know, use it to make rum. And I think it's downplayed a lot, especially because if people aren't involved in the making of it, you know, there's maybe a reason for them to talk highly or glorify it, right? Like, you know, it's just like, oh, it's just a byproduct because let's diminish the importance of it because we're trying to treat it as this product that is interchangeable no matter where we get it from.
Well, like everyone's trying to like differentiate their product, right? And so I think sometimes some brands will choose to like differentiate by talking about how bad the other stuff is, you know, and that.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I think something's coming to mind there, but for me, it's like, exactly. It's if you don't, like I hear people say a lot, and I know we might get into this later, that like sugarcane molasses doesn't have any terroir. And I'm like, how many single origin molasses have you blind tasted? Because I've done it a lot more than the average bear. And believe you me, when you taste Worthy Park blackstrap against a bulk commodity blackstrap, you blind tasting every time you would tell the difference. To me, like I wouldn't even be able to blind tasting identify it as blackstrap. It's so flavorful. It's so concentrated. Like, and this idea that all blackstrap is whatever, like, no, you don't even know, because the central factories, like that's all most people have tasted. Most people haven't tasted a lot of these single origin expressions, or even from, you know, the same mill, different places. And so I think that there's a lot of bias there. And like Zan said, a lot of like dismissing of sugar. It's less than molasses isn't as important. You know, we roast coffee, but everyone respects single origin coffee.
Right.
Releasing flavors, creating aromatic precursors through the Maillard effect. I absolutely believe that, you know, for us, we use molasses for a reason. We did not spend all that money and time and energy and training and laborious madness going from fresh juice to molasses for no reason. Like that cooking, that concentration, that unlocking of aromatic precursors. You know, I joke that molasses is terroir concentrate, because as you remove those neutral sugar crystals, you're leaving behind that character.
Right.
And then fermentation only unlocks more diversity of flavor, and distillation only concentrates the flavors that are already there. So
I love you, Maggie Campbell.
I love you, Zan.
But I think too, it's like when people grow up and you think of, you know, molasses that you buy in a store off the shelf. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't a lot of these molasses add back sugar because the molasses has so little sugar content to it, like before they even sell it on the shelf, right? So it's like, I think people's framework and understanding of what molasses should taste like is probably just distorted and not even accurate either.
Yeah, and then you think about salt. We all grew up with the one box of salt in our house. And salt is chemically the same between all of our different salts. And let me tell you how many salts I have in my house.
Same here.
One for baking, one for tenderizing,
Yes.
right? We all know this for salt, but why don't we get that same respect to sugar? It really blows my mind.
Yeah,
I feel like we should do a blind molasses tasting on the show sometime, John. That would be fun because I've never done that. You know, that would be super interesting. I do like there were a lot of descriptors in there: grade A, grade B, blackstrap. I think
Massaquite.
Yeah,
right?
yes, yeah.
Massaquite. Yeah, we're throwing people
Massaquite.
in the deep end.
I'm learning in real time right now. It's great.
But I feel like I see those terms get thrown around a lot, especially I know a lot of craft distilleries here in the U.S. will be like, oh, we use, grade A molasses. But when I talk to distillers, a lot of times what I hear from them is like, oh, there's not really like a standard definition for what that means. That can mean different things. So I guess what I want to know is just how do all these different grades ultimately affect the end product of rum? Like, where does that come into play? And it sounds like the grades are somewhat determined by the level of fermentable sugars in the molasses. Maybe that may be an oversimplification, so feel free to correct me. But just when people hear, okay, at Mount Gay, we're using grade A molasses. At Worthy Park, it's essentially the grade C. Is that right, Zan?
I mean, we just call it C molasses or final molasses.
Okay, C molasses, final molasses. Like,
I think you're right though, Will. I think it's I don't know what the definitions are between the grades, and I think it's almost like certified organic these days, right? Like, what does that mean depending on the market you're in?
Yeah.
And just because something is called grade A or sold as grade A in the States, I don't know if there's a direct relation between how we do molasses in Jamaica versus say Fiji or Mexico or Belize. And I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Maggie. But
so you're fortunate that you do everything in house. But as someone who, at Mount Gay, we receive molasses from other places as well. So we have 3 streams of molasses at Mount Gay. We have the molasses we import from the Caribbean. It's 100% Bon Sucro certified because we are getting it from a third party, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
There is all the molasses we get from Barbados. So this is sugarcane that's processed at Port Vale, the main sugar factory in Barbados, and they sell their excess molasses to distillers. There's a really interesting story going on there about, is the sugar more valuable or is the molasses more valuable, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well. We talk about how molasses is changing in quality over the decades.
Yeah.
And then there's Mount Gay's own molasses, right? So those are our 3 sources. So when we get a source from outside, we're going to get a certificate of analysis that's going to tell us what are the bricks, what are the inverted sugars, what is the sulfur, what is the ash. Ash is an important one. And we're going to look at all these different things, and we have sort of an idea of where we want to be. Now, the FDA guide from the 1950s on what grades of molasses there are is generally considered an industry standard because so much bulk molasses, commodity molasses, is brokered on that system.
Okay.
So for me, when we were commissioning our mill, we wanted grade A molasses. And so here I am taking laboratory analysis and samples and confirming that we are making grade A molasses, which we're very proud of. So for us, it's the ash content, the sulfur content, all sorts of things that you're looking at. But that's sort of the essential one that's like a generalization. Obviously, what Zan's saying is true. If you go to India or China or somewhere else, like it's really about getting that certificate of analysis and you having your standard of what you accept and what is in your style capacity and working with it that way. So because we get all of ours regionally, we're very lucky. It's very understood what our styles are. And all of us are Bon Sucro certified. So we're getting from like a smaller group who's a little bit more focused on, quality of like worker health and sustainability, et cetera. So for us, we're kind of getting from a selective area of people we know pretty well.
Does Barbados bulk buy or molasses? Like as the distilleries? Or is it all separate?
I'm the estate rum manager, sir. So when it comes to those types of specific questions, I'd have to defer. Or maybe invite someone else to be on a podcast.
Heard.
Thank you.
Okay. No, I didn't know because in Jamaica, it's all by Caribbean molasses, right?
Right.
So it's all.
I have like a certain working knowledge, but I'll admit I'm also a little naive in that my head is often in a cane field at milking. So
Heard. Well said. Well said.
but yeah, so those are and then high test molasses is the last thing I want to mention, which is essentially a really concentrated sugar syrup. For me, it doesn't give those classic molasses flavors. It's very different, but high test molasses is different than grade A. I think people can confuse those two.
Okay. Yeah, because I know I've talked to Roberto Sarayes about high test molasses and how they use that for Don Q, and I think they blend that with also, I don't know what grade it is, but I'm assuming.
Yeah, so he's very open and freely sharing, and I love and respect that. So I'll quote him for himself that yes, they grade the high test with I believe it's blackstrap.
Yes, yeah. So, okay, so people who are rum fans, they hear this distillery uses grade A, this one uses grade C or final molasses. How does that actually change what you do or does it change what you do during production? And how does that express itself to you in the rum at the end? Are there certain, this may be an oversimplification, but are there certain rums where you can taste them and be like, this was definitely grade C molasses? Or
hallmarks, maybe?
Yeah. They're hallmarks of grades of molasses expressing themselves in rum.
No, I think, again, we're a little, I guess, simple over here because we're only working with Worthy Park molasses. So we year over year we have a level of consistency to everything that you were saying in terms of the bricks, the ash, all the different sugar content and sucrose and whatnot. We have a very consistent level that we're working with, so it makes it easier, I think, for our distillery team to kind of go into I think the consistency is where the big difference is. And again, I'm not a distiller, I'm not a chemist, but I'm just talking from what we're doing over here. It gives us a level of consistency year over year, knowing that we're working with the same molasses, and quality-wise, we know what we're going to be working with. Because I know there's been challenges with distilleries if they get molasses with really high ash content, and how the condition it leaves their fermentation tanks in afterwards. So I don't. Again, I'd probably defer to Maggie again on this one, but I don't know if there's any what the differences are on the end result. I think there's going to be a lot of differences in the production side of it.
Impacts the process.
The process of how you get to that end product, right? Because your goal is consistency.
Right. I was going to say, because you're aiming for consistency there in the first place, you're kind of already narrowing your field, right?
Exactly.
To get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love to blind taste. I love to taste things, and I love to use my wine tasting skills. So, I can only speak for my own palate. But, I think there's a certain number of rums on the market that, are kind of that classic, final molasses grade C style. I get a lot of rich back palate notes. I've definitely had grade B rums. I find them really interesting. I've also had rums where they blend the different molasses types, and I think they are really unique and different. But as you know, most of my experience is in grade A. I love grade A. I remember when grade A was like, what are you people doing? It's wild. And now it's exciting to see a little more grade A out in the world. To me, grade A gives a lot of more top notes. It's very immediate on the nose. The perfume is very vibrant. And I definitely get specific fruity notes. And for me, and this might just be me, I get the cane character is it's a little different in its expression. And so for me, I find that really exciting about the grade A. But, I don't want to speak for other producers and their styles, just, the molasses I've played around with and the things I've tasted. Those are kind of things I notice. But I think that also, we call it focus in wine, right? So you start with the state of California, and then you focus into Napa, and then you focus into a specific mountain, and then maybe a specific vineyard. And I think one of the things I'm really noticing with a lot of these different, rums, especially something like Worthy Park or our Mount Gay single estate, is it has an intensity of focus that I think is really unique. I tasted it in wine a number of times. It really struck me the first time I had something like that, because as you know, a lot of molasses-based rum doesn't have that necessarily same kind of level of focus. So for me, that was something that was really special.
Yeah.
Do you think the distillation, the style of distillation, would impact that as well, Maggie? Would it enhance the type of molasses you're using?
Yeah, I mean, of course,
and
like
which
there's
one?
there's gonna be layers of flavors from your raw materials,
Yeah.
right? Let's go WSET. There's layers of flavor from your raw materials. The flavors can be added to through fermentation,
Yeah.
and then really focused into and shaped by distillation, and then flavors of aging on top, right? And maturity, different things, right? The flavor of maturity and the flavor of oak are different things. But yeah, I definitely think that there's a real excitement about what types of stills you use. It will change the character. It will focus in on different character. You'll see on our website, the Mount Gay single estate is pot stilled, and we use the traditional retort double pot distillation. That's what Trudy, is really striving for in this, to really let that richness come through.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You referred earlier, you mentioned the idea of having a sugar mill for the purpose of making molasses, which is not the approach that I would assume the vast majority of modern sugar mills out there take. And there's kind of this ongoing storyline in rum today, if you're super nerdy about rum, just about the quality and availability of molasses and how variable it can be. And I know producers are having to go to, sometimes change their source, get it from different places and things. And so I kind of what I wanted to ask is just how big of a concern or challenge is that variability in molasses for rum producers truly? Is it, because sometimes I hear about this, and as a rum consumer, I get a little worried. I'm like, is there going to be enough good molasses left in the world to keep making awesome rum? Or what is everyone going to have to make their own mill? Because I assume not every distillery has the capacity to do that. So what's the temperature on that? Am I freaking out too much, or is it a big deal?
Or not enough?
I'll just briefly give some context and then let Zan run away with it. But I think what you're asking about is, as the demand for crystallized sugar grows, the more heavily refined some blackstrap molasses may be.
Yes.
Right.
And as that leaving sugar in the molasses becomes more of a detriment to sugar producers, the price for molasses can go up while the quality goes down.
Right.
That's been a discussion in our industry in general that's been going on. So I'm just framing the context.
That's a great way of synthesizing it.
Zan, who brings in no molasses from the outside. Do you have any thoughts?
No,
you don't have to buy molasses on the market, right?
No, but again, if we grow, like right now we use maybe under 50% of the molasses we use for here, but again, our projections and the way we want rum to grow in the future, will we get to a point where we are using 100% of the molasses we produce? Possibly. Is there a point where, based on the politics of sugar and commerce in Jamaica, that we lose protection and all of a sudden all this cheap sugar is going to come flooding into Jamaica and we have to reevaluate our own production? Possibly. So I think we're, keep an eye on it, but I think it's also why, we started working a little bit more with cane juice now, right? To see how that works for us in the future. But just to give context, for Jamaica overall, where all the distilleries on the island are using about roughly 120,000 tons of molasses a year. Just, again, this is very average, very, it's going to change year over year, but we as an island need to bring in about 100,000 tons of molasses a year. So, and we're Jamaica, in the scale of rum producing countries, we're still probably one of the smaller ones. Like when you talk about some of the Central and Latin America places. So I think there is a general concern over adapting to the quality of molasses that is becoming available year over year. And I think Maggie and I have talked about this before, the quality of sugar extraction and it is getting better in a lot of the bigger factories throughout the world. And I think it's going to be a challenge. I don't think, Will, you need to go out and buy millions of liters of rum.
No panic buying. We don't want to set off a panic right now.
Just buckets of Crosby molasses stacked up in your garage.
Well, this could be a strategy. If I own it all, then everyone has to come to me to get it, right? Just corner the market.
Right.
I'll be like, I can make 5 bottles.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
no, I think we're all aware of and paying attention to it.
Something that's been happening in Barbados. So talk about a small country, right? We do not have enough land to even have all the sugarcane to make all of our molasses. And, the Scotch industry brings in grains from outside.
Yeah.
This is not an uncommon thing, right? To bring in your raw material. In fact, the founding of distillation was to take these staples and bring them and trade them and then distill them, right? So this is not an unheard of thing. So we do bring in a certain amount of molasses. As someone who partners with Bon Sucro, we're working with a lot of producers who know and understand that we are seeking out the certification because, we are like this rum brand. And so I think there's a certain sensitivity and awareness that's, on a higher level, which is good. But something that's been happening in Barbados, interestingly enough, is that as the sugar crystal market is so competitive, right? You do all of this work. It is an intense labor of love and hard work. And you make this bag of sugar that you can sell for a few dollars.
Yeah.
But if you make this molasses that you can turn into a bottle of rum, that becomes a very different story. So a lot of our sugar industry has seen that us local rum distillers really want the molasses, and we want more sugar in the molasses, and we want grade A molasses, And I really, really give a nod to Trudy, who went to Port Vale 8 years ago and was like, hey, we want grade A molasses, to this place whose whole focus has been, sugar crystals. And then them seeing this opportunity that we'll pay a premium because we can turn it into rum, which is a different proposition to the market than a bag of sugar. And so there's been a newfound emphasis on making molasses, which, has the potential to be more profitable than maybe the sugar crystals. So it's really interesting to see this sort of change going on and a perspective shift. And, I think we're lucky from where we source from that we're sort of in a slightly different situation than a lot of places.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be really interesting to watch. And I mean, hopefully rum just, becomes such a thing that the entire sugar industry must shift its goals to making better molasses to supply the rum industry. That would be great.
You can start lobbying for that, Will.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that going.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered a lot of molasses, and I wanted to ask a little bit about cane juice also. So, Zan, we'll start with you. We know that Worthy Park also uses cane juice in addition to molasses there. So I was hoping you could walk us through a little bit about Worthy Park's philosophy when it comes to using multiple sugarcane byproducts in
production,
and how does that kind of come together?
There's that pesky word byproducts again.
I know, John. Naughty.
I think I'm the one who wrote it, who used
technically
that. So
speaking,
no, you blame it on me.
He set me up.
No, I think I kind of alluded to it a little bit before, where a lot has happened in the past 5 years, in the past 10 years in the rum industry and in the sugar industry, and I think we see a lot of cane juice rums being made, but not in Jamaica, but rum made from cane juice, obviously across the Caribbean. And we have, here, 10,000 acres of land, 4,000 acres of cane juice. Of cane growing. We have about 8 other farms that we are growing. We started planting cane and growing cane at. So long term, what does rum production look like at Worthy Park? Is our reliance on only making molasses rum going to be a hindrance in the future? I mean, like I said, we don't really know where it's going. So, the first step was, say, not having done it in the past 18 years that we've been distilling. It started with, let's try it out and see what happens. And that was in 2020. And we did it. And again, I'm very much simplifying everything. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, let's pour some fermentation.
Why don't we try this? Yeah,
let's just go for it. Yeah. But it was very much where we have it. We have access to it. Let's see what we can do. Now, again, key to point out, we're not isolating any specific cane varietal. We're not growing fields specifically for rum production. We're very much taking cane juice that's being crushed at our sugar factory and bringing it down to the distillery for fermentation. So we're not at a point where, because the question has come up a lot, where we're saying, all right, we're making cane juice from rum from this specific type of cane juice because we are, growing fields of this for that. We are still very much focused on making as much sugar and molasses as we can. And because we have access to fresh cane juice, are going to start to take advantage and seeing how we can, I guess, diversify ourselves and innovate, diversify, whatever, catchy buzzword you want to use. But, we want to.
You're so dynamic.
I know.
Dynamic.
Yeah. Head. I don't have all that wonderful, corporate training of what words to use.
You always struck me as a really corporate guy. That's surprising.
I know, right? Looks can be deceiving, well, but no, and I think that was it. And I don't know how much of a percentage-wise, cane juice rum is going to be of Worthy Park, because right now we're still very much a molasses-based rum producer. But I think you will start to see us doing more with it as the future grows. So that probably didn't answer your question at all. You just heard me blab on for 3 minutes about nothing. That's going to be edited down.
I think your method of we take what we take from the mill is very true to what you read in the historical record. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I just think it's an exciting time in rum right now in respect of you see more producers that maybe historically have just done one thing, which doing one thing is great. I'm not hating on that at all. I think it's great if you just do cane juice or you just do molasses, that's awesome. But seeing some producers now give themselves, some optionality in what they can do. It's not just about making a cane juice rum or molasses rum. It's about how can we take all these different stages of sugarcane and have different distillates to work with. I mean, we're already so familiar with the concept of blending in rum, whether it's, blending marks or blending just barrels that are the same thing and all that stuff, and the beauty that can be in a blend. But seeing it across different types of sugarcane distillates is cool. We've talked about it with Richard before. They're doing some of that at Foursquare. We just talked to all the way across the world, Isadier in Reunion, which they've been doing molasses and juice for a long time, but being able to do different blends there. So I just think as we see more producers kind of embracing growing some cane, having that available, it's exciting to think of the possibilities that are out there. And Maggie, I did want to ask you, you have the estate program there at Mount K. Now you have the access to the sugar cane. Do you think there could be anything in the future where it's maybe blending in, doing some juice fermentations and distillations, or maybe even syrup or anything, or maybe even getting as wild as grade B molasses? I don't know.
And wild.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to get too carried away, but
yeah, I mean, I love molasses, and honestly, being part of the crew who built this mill from the ground up, watching it really come to life and seeing that transformation and that character and that flavor development, and I've really just fallen in love with molasses. So molasses is my boo. And I think that in the modern history of Mount Gay, it's been very molasses focused. And so I think it's very true to our house style. So that's where my heart is today.
I think you could sell Molasses is my boo t-shirts, by the way.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Maybe
for Halloween right now with the little sheet ghost, that would be great too. Sorry.
Like the Mount Gay gift shop, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. There's an idea there.
Yeah. But yeah, I've really fallen in love with it. It's our pan boiler on his first day, he said, sugar will get in your blood. And he was right. Now I'm it's such a magical, amazing thing, and we dismiss it so easily. So for me, I'm still very much caught up in my love affair with molasses to think about any other potentials.
Understandable.
I have a quick geeky question to ask, and this is with regards to the yield for rum production from cane juice versus molasses. So my brain says, and I could be totally wrong here, that cane juice, you would be able to produce more rum per acre than you would be able to.
That's what my gut would say, but I don't know because I've never worked with cane juice, so I wouldn't want to speak out of turn. And then I'm also sure it depends on the varietals you use, if it's a high sugar yielding varietal or lower. Because I know in Martinique they're pretty specific about that. I don't know, Zan, do you feel open to sharing anything, or if you're I'm not open to sharing that right now, I respect that.
No, I actually don't. I've never compared the two. Our thought to break it down. I mean, we obviously calculate a lot in terms of what our molasses usage yields are, and then I can kind of backtrack that to how much molasses we're getting per acre. But yeah, I wouldn't, not off the top of my head. But
because we're removing sugar as part of the molasses making process, I would assume there's less fermentable sugar per acre. But I don't want to say something out of turn because I don't have the actual technical experience, but that would be my gut read.
Yeah. And to the earlier point made about just taking what there is and using that rather than trying to science the crud out of it or over-engineer it, I think that's important too. But yeah, it just was a curious question, especially Maggie, for you. You have a small plot, right? So, it's managing
and ours is small, right? So it's 320 acres, of which we farm about 190.
Mm-hmm.
And that is still so Barbados has small estates for the Caribbean, and we're a small estate for Barbados. But also when you compare this to some distilleries like display fields, it's a huge undertaking.
190, that's a lot of acreage, right?
It's not small, but it is small. It is real. It makes a few thousand liters of alcohol, period. But it's not small. What were you gonna say, Zan?
No, but I mean, if you stand in 190 acres of cane field,
right?
It could be 500. It could be 1,000. That is a big. Right. That's still big.
It's very different than an exploration field or a display field. It's a very different undertaking. I mean, big machinery, amazing crew.
Yeah, and you still have to practice crop rotation within that area, right? So that's how you.
That's why the number. So we have a bunch of CSR initiatives on our sugarcane estate, but biodiversity hotspots, bees, mahogany rehabilitation groves, food forests. Yeah. So we have a lot going on our estate, but then also the crop rotation because we are.
What are you rotating with?
So we do a lot of regenerative practices. So using a lot of C3, C4 crops, so sweet potato, traditional yams, all sorts of different pigeon peas to add nitrogen back to the soil.
Whoa.
The watermelon is my favorite. It's watermelon season right now, and you eat a piece of this watermelon and it will stain your fingertips red.
Oh, wow.
Mount Gay Estate watermelon is where it is at. It is incredible. You should see the staff line up for the employees farmers market, which is where we sell a lot of this produce. We also donate some to local services. We do some food security initiatives for local villages. But the employee line for watermelon this year was serious. So,
is that where Harry Styles wrote the song? Oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
Will's what song are you talking about? Watermelon sugar high.
Okay, there we go.
Watermelon sugar high. All right, keep going.
Thank you,
I don't know if we can get the licensing for that.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe next up, Mount Gay Estate watermelon flavored rum. I don't know. That could be
I don't know. Interesting.
I like to keep the watermelon separate.
Yes.
A lovely fish cutter, some watermelon, some rum.
Oh,
right.
That sounds amazing.
Dan, we need to do another visit.
Well, we need to come and visit you. Is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Well, just don't forget our phone numbers when you set that up. Maggie, you've mentioned Bonsucro a few times, and I wanted to use a stupid corporate work terminology. Circle back to that. We've had a number of people, write in over the years with questions about rum supply chain ethics, things like, is there a way to know if a brand is using molasses that came from mills and before that farms that treat their workers ethically, follow responsible environmental practices, all that sort of thing. And to me, that's just it's something I'm curious about too, but it seems like such a huge, vast industry to try to get a handle on, and there's so much molasses coming from so many different places. A lot of it seems kind of opaque to me. Do you what are the recommendations you have for navigating that as a consumer? You mentioned Bonsucro. I'm assuming that's a certification. What does that signify? What can people kind of look for?
Yeah, and I think this is true. I don't want to get into any whataboutisms, but I think it's just true of all spirits production. When you're making whiskey, grains are coming in from all over. When you're making gin, spices, and the spice trade is something to be aware of, is coming in from all over. So I don't think we're alone in this. I think that for us, as someone who sources sugarcane from the local region, because we're getting it from an outside party, Bon Sucro has been really meaningful for us. It is definitely laborious. It requires a lot of work, a lot of documentation. It took a really dedicated team of incredible people at Mount Gay to bring that forward over many years of work. It's pretty serious stuff. And it guarantees a certain amount of environmental practices as well as worker comforts. And for us, that's been really important to make sure there's a healthy level of worker care, environmental care, as someone who brings in molasses from the outside. On our estate, we have these amazing mobile units. So out in the fields, they have our, workers who are working have kitchenettes with solar panels, private bathrooms, multiple private bathrooms. It's like this big kind of almost mobile home situation for them so that they have these things as well. So, and we obviously, we have gender pay parity on our agricultural team and all sorts of things in-house ourselves. But for what we bring in, we do the Bon Sucro. I think when you're someone like Worthy Park, you have total control over the whole thing. And I think even in the first presentations I ever saw Zan give, the coverage of their programs that they have internally, because they do have total control over that and can communicate it themselves really authentically, is very cool. And as someone who visited in them and saw these programs at work, I think it's really cool. So, previously I'd used other certification programs and definitely at Mount Gay, Bon Sucro was a big investment and absolutely worth it for us as for those sugars that we bring in.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's the chain of custody to make sure that, everything is documented and certified and checked and audited. It's a lot.
Yeah. And then I think it's when people ask you that, it's such a nuanced question because I don't think there's one answer or there's one resource or there's one way to really look at it. And I think for us here, we're governed by so many different laws and rules and regulations in Jamaica where if you look at, our environmental agency, NEPA is a huge and influential agency here in Jamaica where we have NEPA here for everything. They look over effluents in the air, liquid, water, effluents, everything, from our water source coming in to the water going out of our sugar factory to the dunder that we're using as fertigation to the quality of what's coming out of the factory in the air. I think there's a lot of regulations in Jamaica that we abide by and we follow. Again, none of them are global because we're an island nation, so we follow. Just to operate here, there's a lot that we have to follow.
Every
and I think
country's going to handle it differently.
Yeah. And, I think from the worker side too, I think what a lot of people don't realize in Jamaica is we're very unionized as a country. Like we have, and here just at Worthy Park, there's basically 3 major unions in the sugar industry. And every 2 years we have to do union negotiations. So they're very prominent here, and it's not shrugged off, and the relationship and the negotiation is taken seriously, and irrespective of that too, we're very much a community employer here at Worthy Park. Where we're located is very typical of a lot of the old estates and factories where you're in the country, right? And a lot of the economy around the area was built around estates and factories that were there. And that model is very much in play today, where the little town where we're located, Loitasville, there's about 3,000 people, give or take, in the town. And so much of the town and the areas is really supported by directly or indirectly by Worthy Park. And we're not perfect. I don't think any company is, but we try our best to make sure that our people here are well taken care of. We do what we can for the community, even everything from like the basic school and all age school to the police station in town to just generally the people who are working with us. We try our best to do what we can to support and help out where we can. And I think it's hard to, like, none of that falls under necessarily any kind of certification where, I can point to and say, hey, look, we have this, XYZ certification that says that covers all this stuff, but we're trying our hardest to communicate that and share what goes on in Worthy Park. But for us, it's a little more difficult where we don't have this kind of catch-all be-all certification that we can, hang on the wall and say, point to and say, hey, look, this is what we do. But, to be here and experience it is different. And, I think it's just like the aqueduct that comes to Worthy Park. And I'm just kind of rambling all over the place now as the thoughts come to my head, right? But like the aqueduct that water to Worthy Park is still, when it was built in the 1700s, was, the first water supply to come into the valley. Right.
Wow.
And it's still in operation. It's still owned by Worthy Park, but it still also very much brings water to the community, right? Where we don't have city water up here where we're located, right? So we don't, there's a lot of that support, and we'll have our water truck help out with the police or whatever it needs to be done in the community, and even on the Worthy Park property as well, right? Like we have a lot of housing, a lot of people that live on the estate, so we're very much we have generations of people that work here, and it's family at Worthy Park in terms of like you have somebody who works in the main office and their spouse works at the distillery, and their father works in the fields and their grandfather worked at the factory, and so it's hard to really point at one thing to say this is what we're doing, but there's a lot of it that happens. And my last anecdote here, I got pulled over by a spot check by the police in Ocho Rios, which is about an hour and a bit away from her. And the guy pulled me over and looked at my documents and he's like, Worthy Park? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I grew up there. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. So he described, he was one of the senior police officers, and he told me exactly where he lived on the property, who from his family still works at Worthy Park, who lives in the Whitest Vale that he knows still. And when he comes down here, and he up to knew my dog. He's like, oh, like he's like, you have the big brown dog, and I'm like, yeah, that's Kate, the dog. So, I say all that to, just kind of emphasize that there's a level of community in a lot of these areas, rural areas on the islands, that it's very hard to describe if you've never experienced it. But I think especially Maggie can probably tell you, moving to the islands, like it's different when you're down here, and there's a level of natural care that happens. Whereas we're a distillery, we're a sugar estate, but I think we off get painted as the big evil companies do in North America, where there's such a disconnect between management and employees, where you just don't have that here.
It's completely different here. Zan is right. It's completely different, and that level of interpersonal care and like recognition and just check-in, and you can't act too wild because there's nowhere to go, right?
They know your dog.
When you're a local community-based business, the relationship is very different, and for us to assume and take our own projections of the cultures we're from and put it over that it's just very different. And so sometimes these outside systems don't always fit what's going on. Yeah.
Sometimes those outside systems say we're all family here and have this community atmosphere, but it's really just the story, right?
Yeah.
Did you pass the spot check, by the way, Zan?
Yeah.
Of course.
Spot check.
Spot check.
Make sure you go the speed limit, Zan.
Yeah, it's a vehicle documentation check. But no, and I think it's very much like, and I see it when people come, like working in the hotel industry in Jamaica for donkey years before I started in the rum. I think the old adage of you have to really understand where you're traveling to when you go there to understand it. And I think it's applicable to everything from agriculture to just general business, right? Like, the way that you view, if you live in North America and your lens that you view a certain industry through, it has to be, it can't be the same lens that you view that industry through in a different country.
Right.
Because everything is different, right? And,
yeah.
We talk about even like minimum wage, like if you dollar for dollar what minimum wage in Jamaica versus minimum wage discussion in America is very drastically different. Like you'd probably be appalled if I told you what minimum wage was here in Jamaica. But, when you're like at Mount Gay and you were buying agriculture from farmers, directly from farmers versus it being shipped, across the country in a refrigerated truck, and you're eating tropical fruits in the Northeast in December. Like, there's just different ways you gotta look at everything, and I think it's very hard sometimes, especially, and I say that growing up in Canada, Americans to see things outside of a North American lens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
I'm still learning every day. Learning every day, and it's changed for me even from the first year I was here to the second year I was here. I get a lot more darlings, a lot more babies now, and I feel very loved. Like they see me as like, like the woman at the gas station calls me baby. She like sees me as much more local. Whereas in North America, I would be like, how dare you call me baby? Here I'm like, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, that's great. No, definitely an important perspective to keep in mind. I know we've kept y'all for a while. Before we wrap up, just zooming out, is there anything we didn't cover about sugar, molasses, rum that you think is important for people to know? Is there anything that you expect to change dramatically over the next, decade or so? Something different, trends to look out for? Anything to add?
Oh man, I'll let Maggie finish because I feel like Maggie always puts everything so eloquently. But I really do feel like, to Will's point that you said earlier, like, pay attention to, or ask the question, I should say, like, where's the raw material coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think before you even ask for, what certifications you have or what are you looking for you buy, you can tell a lot from people's answers, and just in terms of asking them where, hey, where you get your stuff from, and the type of answers they'll give you in that regard. But, I think learning more about sugar and molasses is really awesome. And I'm going to put it on record that I would love to speak more with Maggie in real life, in the real world, to do more of these sugar and molasses discussions. Because
event organizers who are listening, who to contact.
Yeah. I'm not going to say Maggie and I did a deep dive at conference in Boston like 5 years ago, but
I was just remembering that. Zan and I did this huge deep dive. He brought every type of sugar they made at the mill.
And molasses.
Awesome.
We were way ahead of the curve, Zan.
I know.
About single origin molasses, because that was like the journey I was at the time. Like trying to even find a single origin molasses was such a challenge back then.
Yeah, we should do it again, though. We should do it. We should do it again.
Maybe the world needs to see a little series by us and taste some molasses side by side. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, speaking of collaboration, I can't let you all leave before I ask this question. So there happens to be a very successful rum on the market right now that is a Barbados-Jamaica combination. Seeing that is so successful, that one, is there any possibility that there might be something in the cards in the future between Worthy Park and Mount Gay that could be a marriage made in heaven and something that, could come together and really thrill the rum world? Is there, I know that a lot of people have to be involved in that, but I'm gonna put it to you now. Can we get that? Is that going to be something we can make happen?
You're not the first person to ask this. You're not the first to ask this.
You never know what's going to happen.
Life is wild.
Yeah,
we've got. I think you talked about kind of the friendly Jamaica Barbados rivalry. I feel like this is an extension of that. We have the Foursquare Hampton collab. We need the Worthy Park Mount Gay collab. It's only natural at this point.
It's a win-win here. Yeah, they said there's a chance. Will they said there's a chance?
They said you never know.
I'm saying no comment.
Yeah,
but I will say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I will say I buy a Powerball every time I'm in the States. So, I'm a dreamer. I'm a dreamer.
Yeah, no, anything's possible. But I'm glad that our distilleries are good friends. I'm glad that we're both trying to get the message out there about we can call each other and commiserate about oh my gosh, it's raining. I'm supposed to harvest in 2 days. Oh my gosh, there's a storm coming. All my sugar cane is ripe. Please stay up. We could talk about, the heat in the sugar mill. We could talk about all sorts of things we're going through, but communicating that with other people, sharing what a serious undertaking it is. Like I said, building a sugar mill to me was harder than building a distillery. More technical, more involved, much more challenging. It's a whole other thing that, like, if you don't do it, it is just a very different experience. So we need to share that more with the world.
Yeah,
the 2 years it takes before the fermentation even begins that we go through.
And I think last point, as Maggie mentioned it, when she first, told me that they wanted to bring the team out here, and I came to my team and I told them, that we want to host the Mount Gay team. Everyone was like, wait, they're what? They're building a sugar factory, like from scratch, like really? Like, I think there's still, the mind was blown. But again, I really applaud Mount Gay for going into it, because that's one of the wildest in terms of, I can't believe they're doing that, but wow, I can't believe they're doing that. And it's almost from our end, it was kind of reminding us that this is single estate is something cool. It is something that is special and uncommon, but valued in the industry.
Yeah.
Well, I think Gordon told me it's not for the faint of heart. I think that's one of the first things he told me. But and it is. It's just a very different thing, and it's a lot of work. It's no gimmick. There's no gimmick to these rums. Yeah.
The rum business wasn't tough enough yet to add in the sugar business too.
No, and we haven't even talked about cane farming as an industry.
We haven't even. I feel like there's an upcoming podcast with your agricultural manager and maybe my agricultural manager.
Yeah.
Where they can get wild about.
Oh, I would love to get Hoppy on a podcast, man. He's our agriculture manager is absolutely
incredible. He's incredible. He and Jackie were peas in a pod.
Yeah.
You know, you call to make it happen.
Seems like something we can make happen. Well, there's a chance.
There's a chance. You never know.
Yeah.
But before we let you go, one final question for you, Zan. Just quick answer. Other than Worthy Park, of course, what was the best thing that you had at UK Rum Fest?
Oh, well,
I'm interested.
I didn't see Mount Gay there, so I didn't get to try all this fancy rum that they got going on. No, I listen. I'm gonna disappoint everybody and bore everybody and say I am not a good Rumfest experiencer of Rumfest, because
too busy talking at your booth.
I'm working, guys.
Like
I'm behind the booth. But no, it was you got, obviously, goes without saying, I had my Barbados wise. I saw my big Foursquare friends there. St. Nicholas Abbey was there, which was really cool. But there was actually a lot of UK rums, which I thought were really cool. And but I don't want to go on record of saying which ones I like the best, because I don't want to upset everybody else. But I will say I was very impressed by the UK rums that are coming out.
That's awesome.
Did you try the rum from Isla?
No, I did not.
I was impressed.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I keep hearing good stuff about the UK rums, and John and I, we were just doing some episode planning last weekend, and we were like, we got to do something with all this UK stuff going on. We talked to Kit from Ninefold maybe a year or so ago, but I just kind of want to do something like surveying the whole scene over there. So maybe we can make it happen. But
have you guys done Ben from Island?
We haven't, no. But he was on,
throwing it out there.
We were listing different producers. We were thinking about could we do an episode with a bunch of different producers? So it's the ideas being baked in the oven, and the Isla Distillery is on our list.
It's in the vacuum pan.
Yes, exactly.
The pan boilers. Yes, I love that.
Well, thank you both so much for coming back to the show yet again.
Yes,
a dynamic duo. Always great to see you both, and hopefully we'll all find ourselves together at a rum fest sometime in the future.
Yes, please.
Sure, we can make that happen. We got to get Maggie's never leaving Barbados, apparently. So got to get her off the rock.
I've been very, mingling in the cane fields. So you're right. I need to be more of an outdoor cat. I've been a very indoor cat the last few years. So I need to get to my outdoor cat phase. And I need to, do your kids' astrologicals readings again. So.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know if you guys remember that podcast. Way off the rails.
Yes, of course. There's got to be a part two to that.
This one was a very more of a focused, actual on track podcast.
You threw the bushwhackers thing.
I was going to say, except
at the
for the beginning. We started with the WWF and ended with astrology. So, it was just the middle portion that was on track.
Yeah.
The middle 2 hours were on track.
Thank you guys so much for having me and wanting to chat about the geeky world of sugarcane. We
Absolutely.
Don't enough.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being here. All right, thanks everyone for listening to another episode of the Rumcast. Thanks to Zan and Maggie for taking the time to stop by the show again, share their knowledge, share their time, experience with us. Always great to hear from them. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have more Molasses questions, if you'd like to hear more about this, because I know this is kind of inside baseball stuff, but there's a lot more meat on the bone for us to talk about in this subject, with Maggie and Sam, with other experts as well. So let us know what your questions are about the whole molasses, sugar production, sugarcane, all that good stuff. We'd love to hear from you. You can always email us, host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. Or you can message us on social media. John, where can they find us there?
Yeah, go on to the interwebs and find us at the Rumcast at Facebook. You can get us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and you can get us on Instagram. So any one of those formats, you can either just leave a comment on any one of the episode posts that we do, or send us a DM through there, and we love to hear from you. And don't forget, Will, we also want to know about rum Halloween costumes.
That's right, rum Halloween costumes.
Rum Halloween costumes, yeah.
Or if you have leftover takes on the whole Appleton, Jamaica, how many people know about it thing. We always love to hear more of those. And we're going to be doing part 2 of the mailbag, by the way, as a bonus episode for our Patreon subscribers very soon. So if you want to join and get in on that, you can go to patreon.com/therumcast. That's patreon.com/therumcast. But I think
and
that's it, John.
Hour.
Yeah.
The happy hour as well.
We got happy hour coming up.
We got all kinds of stuff
November
going
1st,
on.
all kinds of stuff. So join us there. We'd love to get to know you more and talk all things rum. But until then, John, happy Halloween and enjoy not dressing up. But having a calm adult Halloween with no spookiness and no festive spirit. We're just a couple of party poopers. But to all the people out there enjoying Halloween, happy Halloween to you from the Rumcast.
Happy Halloween, everyone.